Today, I will be sharing a personal testimony of the Lord's sovereignty. There won't be much in the way of practical tips today, but I pray you will be blessed and strengthened as you listen. The Lord killed my cow, and all I could say was, "The Lord giveth, and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Welcome to Simply Living Homestead, where we empower homesteaders and preserve traditions. I'm your host, Amanda Carlin, and I help homesteading families bring peace and order to their lives. My friend, are you overwhelmed with all the tasks on your homestead? Do you wish for a mentor to guide you through the tough moments each day? Then you've come to the right place. Together we will learn to organize our homestead, love our families well, and walk in the peace of God. If you're ready to get unstuck from the constant feeling of overwhelm, then join us each week as we explore practical advice, inspiring stories, and heartfelt encouragement to help you thrive. Let's grow a sustainable, meaningful life together, both in the home and on the homestead. Hey neighbor, welcome back to the podcast. In September of 2024, I lost one of my milk cows, Clara, to frothy bloat. In the midst of all the sadness, my faith was strengthened, and I trust by listening today, yours will be too. As a trigger warning, homesteading involves death and doing things that are hard and sometimes unfathomable, especially when you love the animals so much. If descriptions of final moments is hard for you, feel free to skip this one and come back next week. Next week, we'll be discussing maple syrup and how to take advantage of bulk pricing this spring. All right, let's start with some backstory. Hi, my name is Amanda Carlin. I own and operate a raw milk dairy in central Iowa. July 1st, 2023, Iowa passed a law allowing the sale of raw milk direct to consumers. I saw the opportunity coming, I saw a hole in the market, and the Lord directed me to a listing. This listing was for a bunch of cows in Minnesota from a farmer who was having to get out of the dairy game because he had been dropped by his producer. I was already milking one cow for myself and a couple of friends, and people just kept coming to me. Amanda, do you have more room? Amanda, I have a friend that wants milk. Do you have more room? And even just through word of mouth, I was getting quite a few people begging me for what I was producing. And so when we saw that everyone that was advertising raw milk coming up, the law was changing, we could have it now, there was really no one in our area. There was people about a half hour, 45 minutes to the south of us. There was people on the other side of Des Moines, but there was no one in our area. So after some prayer, my husband and I got in the car July 3rd, and we drove 4 hours one direction to buy a pregnant milk cow. This cow was Clara. She really was the one that kick-started my business, coming in at about 5 gallons of milk a day. She was my biggest producer. Granted, she was only my second producer, but as I added more cows over the next year, she was my biggest producer. She gave birth in September of that year to a little girl cow, a little heifer named Autumn. Autumn is still with us and is quite the loving cow. She is the one that comes to the fence for scratches, and I love it. So a little backstory on life. Why is this story so powerful? It's just the death of a cow, right? Well, my husband and I didn't really see eye to eye in the dairy. I had seen the hole in the market. I was doing something I loved, but it was taking time away from our family, and Jonathan didn't love that. We have been working through that. But that was something that did cause some contention among us in the summer of 24. We were also struggling with our church. Things were happening that we weren't thrilled with, and the community that I had grown up in, I was really having a hard time connecting with people. So then the summer of 2024, it was filled with pain, tears, and Honestly, more questions than there was answers. So come the end of August, a fight had broken out between the members of our congregation, and we just simply could no longer stay. I remember walking around the house in a daze. This was everything I'd ever known, and it didn't seem to be anywhere else to go. In addition to the church stress, my life was stressed, fighting with my husband over the responsibilities of life and the farm, grappling with multiple mental diagnoses for both me, my husband, and quite possibly our son. Everything felt like it was reeling. Everything was hard. I cried more days than I didn't. I wasn't even cooking. My mom was fixing us supper every night. And I appreciate her so much. I remember in the months leading up to that day in September begging the Lord to do something because I couldn't make that decision. I didn't know what to do. We were milking 4 cows at that point. By September of 2024, we were milking 4 cows. It was taking up, I would say I put in 4 to 5 hours a day, working with the cows, out working with the dairy. And this all came to a climax September 13th. After one particular argument, as Jonathan was returning from a walk, I received a phone call. Amanda, there's a cow out here. She's coughing. Something's wrong. And I remember sprinting down to the tree line, and just this big cow. She was one of my bigger cows. She was brown Swiss and Jersey mix. She was a very large cow. Just watching her body heaving. And I sent Jonathan to get my bloat kit. I knew what was happening. We'd had a couple of cows bloat before, but never to this extent. I led her out of the tree line so that I could help her better. And at the same time, I'm like fumbling for my phone, trying to call the vet, trying to do everything that I knew how to do. And in the process of trying to lead her out, she stumbled, she fell, and within a few minutes had suffocated to death. Frothy bloat is where they get into really fresh green pasture, and their body can't break it down fast enough, and it produces a lot of like bubbles in the stomach, and these bubbles don't pop and come out as gas. They just start building up. And so when she fell, she had such an distended abdomen that it basically was like pressed on her her lungs, and she couldn't breathe in. As a note, I don't think there was anything that I could have really done to save her, even if she hadn't stumbled. And as I tell you the rest of this story, why I truly believe that it was the Lord that killed my cow, I feel this way, that there was nothing that I could do, that the Lord's hand was basically forcing the situation. And I feel that way because she was so bloated. And upon talking to my vets after the fact, I didn't actually have the proper tools on hand to take care of it. It was not something that a simple tube down the throat could have gotten rid of. Some chaos ensued, and I sent for a knife. I had watched her die. I knew why she had died. I knew when she had died. And I was not about to let her go to waste, even in her final moments. So, sent for a knife and bled her out right there in the pasture. I cried. I did. Of course I did. This was my cow that I had spent months with my head, a year actually, with my head pressed up against her side as she was being milked. And I sat in the field and I cried, and then I got up and I was strangely calm. As I was sitting there crying in the pastures, others running off to the house to get supplied, I was stilled by the scripture in Job 1:21. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. The day progressed, and I was numb. But over and over, I just kept saying to myself, the Lord hath given, the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. I had to explain this to people who were coming to visit that stopped in at the farm. What are you doing? What's going on? The Lord hath given, the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. This was the cow that had kick-started my journey into everything that I'm doing now, everything that I'm working for, the business that I'm creating. And the Lord had taken her from me. I had people lined up for her milk the very next day. What was I going to do? All of these fears were rattling around inside my head. She was giving me, at that point, around 3.5 gallons of milk a day. That was 3.5 gallons of milk that multiple people were counting on. I had new people lined up to take milk that I knew I was going to have to turn away. And as I sat and thought about this, as I was working and I was thinking about all of this, it was so strange. The amount of calm that I had that, well, if the Lord is going to kill her, the Lord is going to take care of all of the customers that needed her milk. So I'm in the pasture, and I have called 3 vets at this point. My regular vet, our backup vet, and the backup vet, the one at the state college. And no one was available to come out and help me, and it honestly wouldn't have made much of a difference given the circumstances, but I tried. And as I'm sitting there, my regular vet calls me back. And he goes, well, did you see the test results? Now, 3 weeks ago, previous to this, we had done some blood testing. I do this every year. It is part of my protocol to make sure I have a safe and healthy herd. And, well, no, I hadn't seen them come back yet. They hadn't landed in my inbox. Well, he says, Clara tested positive for Johne's disease. Johne's disease is a disease that about 60% of all cattle in the United States have, at least dairy cattle. And it doesn't present until they are between the ages of 5 and 8 years old. It sets benign in the digestive system until aggravated by stress. And it basically kills the cattle due to nutrient deficiency. They can eat all they want, and their bodies no longer absorb the nutrients. It is passed through fecal matter to young cattle. And she had tested positive for it. It's not even something that you can see in the testing until they hit a certain age. I do not think that it had activated in her body yet. She was showing no signs of it, but it was there. When you find Johne's disease, especially in the homesteading community, when you are looking at the possibility of selling off your young stock, Johne's disease is something that you must take really very seriously. And had she not died on me, I would have had to make the decision to get rid of her. And I know I would have drug my feet. I know I would have wanted to not do that. I would have wanted to wait till about the time that I'm recording this, spring of 25, to try and get rid of her. And I just, when I stop and really think about it, the Lord made a decision for me that I would have found incredibly difficult to make. I butchered her myself with the help of my cousin, brothers, and my mother. A family friend took Emerson for the day. What happened after the fact? We put her in the freezer and we cried a little bit. But why is this a story of power? Well, losing Clara cut 45 minutes off of my chore routine. She was struggling to let down and was taking twice as long as the other cows. Generally, it takes me about 10 to 15 minutes to milk out a cow. And Clara was taking me a good half hour, at least, if not more. Something about walking out to the barn, not having her in her spot, and just being able to focus on all the other cows gave me this breathing room that I didn't know that I had. I was able to start making my own food again and meal prepping. We were able to sit quietly in our living room and calm down in the evenings instead of just racing off to bed every night like we were used to. And most importantly, my stress was gone. Something broke the day between the loss of my cow and us leaving the tense situation at church. And the thing that broke was my stress. I had been begging the Lord to do something because I couldn't do it on my own. And so he did. He did something for me. He killed a cow. For 2 years, I had been living with a heightened sense of awareness, an overwhelming amount of self-imposed responsibility, and a never-ending to-do list. And that day, it stopped. The Lord did it for me. What I could not do on my own, He gave me breathing room. The aftermath of the story is a happy one, despite being down a cow. We've found a new church whose community has welcomed us in. Our marriage has taken great strides in understanding and commitment towards one another. And that stress reduction has given the extended family the space to be able to do a smooth 3-house switch. But that's a story for a different day. The Lord killed my cow. The Lord giveth, the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. I hope this story has encouraged you. If it has, would you leave me a comment or send me an email telling me your story of faith strengthening? You can find me at connect@simplylivingHomestead.com, on Facebook and Instagram at The Simply Living Homestead, or on my website, www.simplylivingHomestead.com. Well, neighbor, before you head out, I just want to say how much I've loved spending this time with you. If you too enjoyed our time together, don't forget to give us a follow and leave a quick review on your favorite podcast player. It really helps more women like us find their way to a simpler, more joyful life. And hey, if you know someone who'd enjoy this episode, why not share it with them? Let's keep growing this circle of encouragement together. Oh, and don't forget to join my email list. I've got some free printables and weekly tips waiting for you to help you live a purposeful, balanced life, one rooted right in the heart and home. Thanks for being here, friend. You're doing a great job. I can't wait to chat again next week here at The Simply Living Homestead.